Welcome to the River Severn. I'm in pursuit of a chevins today. It's very cold, very wet, very windy, very muddy, but I'm very confident. I'm also probably very mad as well. I've chosen my swim very carefully, lots of berries going on there. Behind me you can see overhanging trees, perfect. The main water, the main flow is out there, that's racing through slightly, but I've got some nice steady water there. Excellent, that tells me chub, that's what it speaks about. But also I've gone for this particular swim because if I do end up in the river, which is a good chance with all the slipping and sliding that I've done already, all I'm going to do is just initially get my feet wet. For me to drown or be in a dangerous position, I would have to be out there. That's important, isn't it? I must stress that when you choose swims, whether it's in the winter or in the summer, even safety is always an important factor. But I've ticked the boxes, and although the conditions are adverse, as I've said, perhaps the most important one when it comes to fishing, apart from safety of course, but the actual fishing, is that I'm very confident. I've just gone over on the mud. It's okay, it's nice and safe as I said earlier, but the reason I was manoeuvring around the swim is because I've just caught my first fish. Target species, the chub. Great, aren't they? That fish has now been returned. Very interesting because I'm fishing with a cage feeder and bread mash, bread on the hook, and then about 40 minutes in I'd noticed I'd had a few slight taps, put those down to small fish initially. Small fish will bring the larger ones in, won't they? And so I decided to switch to, holding on to the umbrella there, decided to switch to red Leicester cheese, and immediately that was a much better bite. And then the second cast, well, you saw the chub just now. It's good, isn't it, to think a little bit about the session. Yes, you can go for a particular bait and stick with it, or a particular approach, or even a swim and stick with it and almost hope that it comes good, but you can also have a little bit of flexibility in there as well. And that red Leicester, when another little tap there, definitely a fish. That red Leicester came from the supermarket last week. They'd got some reductions, we always go to those, the bargain section, and they got some red Leicester, just £2, so a block about that big, so quite a decent size because it was up on that particular day. Well, with cheese you can probably get away with a little bit more anyway, can't you, than just the sell by date. But as far as the fish are concerned, most definitely. So I said to my wife, stick it in the trolley. That's my bait for next week. The rivers were up last week, well certainly the Severn was, not really fishable in the context of the kind of angling that I wanted to do, cage feeder, bread mash, after chub. But I knew that they would, or the Severn in particular, would be falling this week. It has, and here I am, and I've got that fish on the bank, and I'm not a blanker, which is always a good thing, isn't it, in the winter. Yes, I am, as I've said, very, very muddy. If you could see me now, covered in mud, but that's the price that we pay sometimes, isn't it, to get amongst the fish, especially at this time of the year. The things we do for love. Oh, I'm wet. Oh. Was it worth it? It's always worth it. Right at the end as well. Took me out into the river, the main flow. But I'm in the driving seat, as I often say. As long as the hook holds and it doesn't take me into a snag, should be okay. Plenty of fight in them, haven't they? These particular species. Wasn't necessarily expecting to do business with one of these today, but you never know. As long as your bait's in the water, you've always got a chance. And I'm having to give it more line. It's going back off on another run. This is where, if you've never caught a barbel before, it's the first one you've hooked, you think it's about 16 pounds, when actually it's probably 4. Although, having said that, this one, assuming I can land it of course, is bigger than 4. Not quite 16 though. Although you never know. That's the mystery of fishing, isn't it? The beauty of it. You never know what's around life's corner. And when you get a bite, you never know what you've got on the end of the line, do you?